Emissions from generators, vehicles and burning of cow skins, popularly called Ponmo, contribute to the poor air quality and climate change-related problems experienced in the country. However, exploring sustainable ways to cut down carbon emissions can improve overall air quality. This, among other issues, will be our focus in this week's edition of Green Angle. Welcome. I am Esther Mapariola. And before we begin, let's bring you updates from the world of environment.
An early morning ride and you are greeted with the sight of dried feces that have spent days, if not months. This has become an eyesore to both residents, motorists and commuters. As well filmed, the awful stench permeated, yet this man went to the median to pass excreta, not minding who is watching. While driving, we caught another person on camera passing excreta there. Shockingly, this is done even in broad daylight recklessly. Residents and commuters along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway corridor told TVC News that crossing the median has become difficult.
This way they have no good. Then do road, then do cutter to let water pass. People they tell us to remind them around a year where they pay 15 naira, they pay on the night. Anybody want shit, may go there. May they help us find some people like boys plenty. Book castle clothes for their body. Put them there. Anybody with an arrest, they can't go Abeokuta. If they arrest about 3 people for 4 persons, you go see them say you go there okay. The day when they carry fire service car on fire water, they watch there. Anybody there, they see what anybody they do. This guy is no good. They put Nigeria.
And it was very irritating. They messed that place up with the sheets, all these dirty things, and I was very, very angry that day because I was going to work that day because I have to get a water to wash everything that was stained.
So if our government can help us to put maybe security or people where go the day here, monitor here and supervise there.
We took a trip into Kara Market to ascertain if there is a public toilet, but our findings show that it's available. We are told that a cleanup of the median was carried out recently, but it didn't take a week before the heaps of feces were evident. Sometime last year, the Lagos State government, in trying to avert such an unwholesome act, ramped up its advocacy.
On our part, we believe we have to ramp up advocacy. We have to ramp up a love, reorientation, and messaging for the people. It doesn't speak well. Then, on our part also, I think next year, we need to start making provisions for public toilets.
Late last year, residents of Isheri North, a boundary between Lagos and Ogun State, faced a harsh reality of displacement due to floods. The incident, considered a perennial issue, forced many to seek shelter elsewhere.
Wherever this water is coming out from, they have the capacity, they have the tenacity to do something that will ease off this punishment. I call it punishment because they know what to do.
And reduce the risk of disaster.
This workshop is part of ongoing efforts to equip residents in flood-prone areas with a systemic approach to limit the impact of such disasters before official interventions take place.
The problem we are facing now is that canal. We want government to do the casting for us and change that bridge. Immediately water reach that bridge. The bridge is too low for the content of the water. All of them are passing through that bridge of a command. So that is where we are facing the problem.
I think for properties that have been built, we know what the economic situation is. You can't tell people to start demolishing their houses, and I know that. I think for such areas, there should be standard. There should be specifications like, okay, if you want to build in a floodplain area, okay, this is the level of this thing you should have, and not that, okay, I'm just coming to build. So it's a matter of town planning.
While the adoption of strict planning rules is seen as the ultimate solution to reduce the effects of flood disasters, experts emphasize meaningful actions start with taking small steps.
Before the international support came in. That means there are some people that have been working at the grassroots level. So the community are working. There is a resilience. When there is flood, it's either they relocate to family or churches. So those are the actors that are there doing it. So we have to bring all those actors together to strengthen the capacity gap.
It is believed that by equipping residents with the needed knowledge and fostering a proactive mindset, it will not only limit the immediate impact of disasters, but also build a foundation for long-term resilience.
Okuafa, a coastal community in Lagos, is fast disappearing. The ocean is swallowing up what used to be a bustling home for the locals. Rising sea levels and coastal erosion force many to abandon their ancestral homes.
Our houses, even the central mosque of the community, everything has been washed away.
Similar narratives unfold worldwide, revealing the harsh effects of climate change.
Thank you very much. If you can't hear yourself.
This training for young journalists aimed to empower them with skills to raise awareness and champion climate justice, fostering a drive for positive change.
It's important for us to gain as much knowledge to help others who don't have the knowledge to know what to do, especially with a topic as hot as climate change, because I think that it's time for us to get our stories out there from local to global, as you say, so we, the global audience can connect with the local issues here.
Those at the grassroots do not want to hear it because they believe it's a Western concept. So it's a very good program, and I like that this is happening for young people especially, because we have a crop of budding journalists coming up and they're showing interest on how we can talk about these issues, how we can get people to understand what it really means, and how we can get people to change their attitude and behavior towards our environment.
This can also create a significant impact, provided the government and relevant authorities support similar initiatives that support climate justice.
I think a lot of Nigerians need to understand that climate change is real, and we need to tell this story from the community angles so that a lot of people can be able to understand that we are facing a lot of environmental issues. And if they don't have first-hand information, they might also be part of the victims. So using the media is one of the biggest ways.
Stories like those from Ukuafa serve as reminders of the pressing need for collective action, empowering the next generation of journalists to raise awareness and champion climate justice is a crucial step towards creating positive change.
Residents of Enugu, southeast Nigeria, are appealing to the government to increase awareness on the harsh weather conditions being experienced across the country. This comes following an advisory by the Federal Environmental Protection Agency warning residents not to mistake the conditions to harmattan.
The Federal Environmental Protection Agency recently warned that current change in weather conditions across the country is not harmattan, but air pollution with serious health implications. FEPA had cautioned that it can lead to hazardous health conditions that causes reduced lung function, respiratory infection, inflammation, oxidative stress with low level of antioxidant, which creates an imbalance in human body. The federal agency also advised that Nigerians should henceforth wear nose masks, stay hydrated by ensuring they drink more water, cover food and water very well to prevent dust from settling on them, watch fruit very well before eating, and stay indoors as much as possible. In Enugu, southeast Nigeria, the experience is different as the people are unclear about the advisory compared to other parts of the country. At about a few minutes past 7 a.m., the weather in the state capital is slightly dusty that they peaked harmattan season. Similar incident was recorded in Udenu local government area in Enugu North Senatorial Zone, as people are seen going about their businesses with little or no knowledge about the FEPA advisory.
We've noticed that the weather is changing because it was not the weather we were operating on through the rainy season that we have now. Because of the wind and the rest, a good number of things can fly in the air. So I think the only thing is that every reasonable person should find a way to cover up.
They admonish government to increase sensitization.
You people, you sensitize people like this, because many of us living in the rural areas don't know the importance of it.
It's a disease that is on the way that will affect everybody in this nation. And this is the reason why everybody should now cover his or her nose.
The Federal Environmental Protection Agency submit that the condition may prevail for a considerable period of time and urge Nigerians to adhere and keep their friends and families informed.
Kaduna State witnesses a slightly hazy weather in the early mornings and it gets very hot in the afternoon. TVC News team in Kaduna interviewed residents who spoke on the impact of this environmental shift on their daily lives and the adjustments they've had to make.
It's very, very hot in the afternoon. In the morning, cool weather. In the afternoon, it's very sun, and most of the people, their sickness, they catch them because they change to weather at the same time. Most of the people, they complain is similar to sickness, and if affect them.
Very, very hot in the afternoon. In fact, if you don't take it, to some extent, I take like 3 to 4 sachets of water even before 3 o'clock. Just from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, I take up to 4 sachets of water. This is because the weather is too hot. And then when it gets to evening, I tend to get scared of cold water because it will make me feel feverish and the rest. So I don't want that for myself.
Meanwhile, Kaduna State government officials acknowledges that human activities have contributed to worsening climate change, now a global concern.
Here in Kaduna State, during our Christmas Day, New Year Day, people had to go out with thick clothes, to protect themselves from the cold. But this time around, people were going out with singlets. So these are obvious phenomenon that shows that the climate is changing. Our farmers in the communities are being affected, farm produce. If people understand these challenges climate is bringing on board, we'll be able to stand up together and see how we can fight it. People of Kaduna State, residents of Kaduna State, both urban and rural, need to understand the importance of tree planting and the dangers in cutting down trees.
He outlines steps being taken to address the situation, emphasizing their commitment to correcting the environmental challenges to the best of their ability.
Green Angle returns in just a moment. Stay with us. Going green is perhaps the best option to reduce air pollution and improve air quality in our environment. And that's according to the General Manager of the Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency, Babatunde Ajayi. And this comes following an advisory by the Federal Environmental Protection Agency that the current change in weather isn't harmattan, but an extreme form of air pollution.
Yes, indeed, there is a lot of pollution around, and the weather, is a little dense, as the federal agencies have pointed out. This definitely has consequences on the health, particularly the respiratory health of people. So as Lagos is concerned, we also have identified this, and we have published our results and reports in the past week. What we have done, however, is to also issue advisory to say that first, people must plant more trees. Secondly, we have begun to encourage people to go green, reduce your generator usage, go more solar. Probably even cheaper to go solar now than to buy diesel. So go solar, reduce vehicular emission by carpooling. So you have more people using BRT, reduce how many people are in a car or how many cars you have to take out every day. That way, in your own little way, you are reducing the emissions in Lagos, you are reducing the pollution in Lagos. The health risk associated with pollution primarily stem from simple lower respiratory tract infections, increased trigger for asthma and people who have other respiratory diseases. Sometimes people sneeze a lot, irritation in the upper respiratory airway. Sometimes depending on what is in the air, it might go as far as nitrates, sulfates, affecting the lungs and even the heart on some days. So what we continue to do is to, preach processes or procedures that would help you reduce how much pollution you have around you, so that the air that you are exposed to mostly is, cleaner than if you didn't do anything. The problem is not the Ponmo itself. We all love it. The problem is the processing. And what we have done consistently is to advocate for better processing methods so that we can manage the hides of cows, and manage that food chain carefully. So currently, the way cow skin is processed to form the Ponmo we so love is that it is burnt in the open with coal and firewood. Now that processing method, generates a lot of carbon, and then the carbon goes into the air and it becomes poisonous. It is a lot of carbon from one source. So in areas where you have abattoirs where they particularly specialize in producing these things, even the environment would say it all. It's usually very dark, it's usually quite messy. So what we're saying is that the pollution from that process needs to be managed differently. We need to use more sustainable methods to produce cow skin or to produce Ponmo. And what we're saying is that maybe not stop eating Ponmo, but let us be more responsible in the processing. And we're working very closely with the Ministry of Agric to make sure that our abattoirs comply with these methods and the directives, and then we're able to still eat Ponmo while we have a more sustainable environment. Processing of the cow skin can be with gas, right? If you use gas for the processing, it doesn't come out as black. And I'm not sure anybody enjoys the blackness of Ponmo. What we enjoy is the taste and the folding, that we have, so that, it traps a lot of juice. Yes, so we can still get all of that. We're using gas processes, we're using more sustainable methods. There are actual gas burners that will do just the same work, but will not pollute the environment as much. So the agency is partnered with the Vehicle Inspection Service in Lagos, and the goal is to, one, measure emission levels across Lagos, with the vehicles, and then strategically reduce how much emission. So if you have emission levels higher than our recommended, the protocol, we would recommend that you change certain things in your vehicle, then come back for a reassessment. So that way, we're measuring the amount of carbon you're generating, and when you change it, or when you change the faulty part, mostly the catalytic converters, otherwise called Indomie, right? When you change it, we're able to graduate, or we're able to measure how much carbon we have saved. and then it reduces emissions across vehicles. The second thing is to make sure that, or to continue to preach that people, when they can afford it, when they can afford it, they can use public vehicles, use BRTs. If you use our buses, you save the emissions from your car for that day. We project that the results are going to be visible over a certain period. I mean, vehicle inspection and emission testing started in Lagos a while ago, many years ago actually, and it became very compulsory about 3 years ago. Now that it is compulsory, every vehicle must undergo the emission test. Because you're undergoing an emission test, we're able to measure how much emissions you generate, right? And when we tell you to change certain parts, we would have successfully reduced how much emissions you'll be contributing. First of all, it's important that we mention that these public downfall people that you talk about, they are very important in the transport chain of Lagos, and they also must undergo this testing, and they actually do. Most of them have more complete vehicle papers than the fine cars that we see around town. They actually have their papers, they go through emission testing. It's not as common in Lagos anymore to see heavy smoke come out of a vehicle. Heavy smoke come out of, transport vehicles. It's not as common. It used to be very horrible back in the day. So I think these efforts, a lot of them are not able to even pass the test, and because they are not passing it, we gradually take them out of. I believe the Ministry of Transport is handling that, but I can assure you we're working very closely with them to make sure that the emissions from these vehicles is, 1, reduced, number 2, controlled, number 3, measured accurately, and then over time, help us get a better environment. Tree planting is primarily the remit of LASPAC, Lagos Parks and Gardens Agency, and I know very well that they do a lot of work in that regard. I know that there are policies actually that are being implemented right now as regards people having green in their spaces or in the new buildings that they are putting up. So I know that there's a lot of activity, but it's not directly under my remit. However, I expect, or I assume, that over the next couple of years, the new buildings coming up will definitely have spaces for trees, and then encourage more green to absorb the carbon that we generate. There are several communities have adopted this method, and if you look at many communities in Lagos, many particularly gated ones, they are very keen on greening their spaces. They are very keen on having green spaces. You have trees planted in the middle of the roads. You have trees planted in front of people's buildings, people, surrounding their fences with trees. And so it is a function of communities. People have to own this process themselves. We can do advocacy, but the planting and the tendering of those trees has to be done by the people. The incentives really are simple. It's auto-regulating itself. Diesel is more expensive than solar panels, so why won't you go green? And there are so many finance houses that are doing a lot of work with bringing solar panels to people at a cost that they can pay over a year or two. And a lot of barber shops, a lot of small businesses, small and middle scale businesses who have adopted solar panels just for that purpose. So I think what we've done as an agency and what we can continue to foster is to make sure that these people who need it meet with the people who provide the service and ensure that they go green. On air pollution, I would say that the poor air quality around you is a direct consequence of the activities that you undertake and you go through. Also, things around cooking methods, would show you that you are the actual architect of the air pollution. The best thing you can do is to manage your environment very well. As much as you can, go green. as much as you can, use sustainable methods of cooking, use sustainable methods of transportation. On days when you can walk, on days when you can, please plant trees. Set a personal target to plant trees by yourself for your home and for your people. I mean, simple things like planting one tree on every birthday or planting one tree to represent every of your kids' birthdays helps the world, become a better place, helps us get better as Lagos.
And that's about it on this week's edition of Green Angle. Until I come your way next time, remember, together we can build a sustainable world. I am Esther Mopariola. Bye for now.